really is not hyperinflation yet, but we will.
And what do they do after adding 40% of the money supply in the last 3 years? Janet Yellen blames you. Janet Yellen blames me and us for overspending.
Quit using your credit cards.
Are you kidding me?
Biggs and Bogs.
More seconds.
The old.
All right, let's get right into it. Hey folks, and welcome back to your future hand with Biggs and Bogs. I'm Marty Boggs.
And I'm Julian Biggs.
And we got Spencer on sound and screens.
Spencer.
Thanks for joining us today, folks. We like to come at you about once a week or so and talk about some subjects that we believe will benefit your future hand. So smash that like button. Let's get right into it. What are we up to today, and how can we plan for tomorrow? Julian.
Thanks, Marty. Good to be back in the studio. We didn't have an episode last weekend, or did we?
We did.
Fuck, we missed it the weekend before that. It was the weekend before that that we missed.
We're back at you.
Let's try that again.
That was the best intro I ever did.
No, it wasn't.
You're good here. Fucking John Yelt's a bitch. Okay, let's get right into it. Oh, hey guys. Welcome back to your future hand with Biggs and Bogs. I'm Marty Boggs. That's Julian Biggs. And we got Spencer on sound and screens. Thanks for joining us today, folks. We like to come at you about once a week or so and talk about some things that we believe are going to benefit your future hand. So let's get right into it. Smash the like button. What are we up to today, and how can we plan for tomorrow? Julian.
Thanks, Marty. It's a good thing you're here because I apparently don't know how to introduce myself. So today we're going to talk about the oil cap, conversation that was had with Janet Yellen, what's going on with the Fed, whose fault is it for all this terrible inflation? Apparently it's ours, but as always, of course, we're going to get into it with a bit of a market scope here first.
Market scope.
Market scope. Okay, so today we've actually zoomed out a bit. We are looking at the monthly chart today because we got a couple things we want to point out and what's going on, because the only thing that we have to forecast the future is the past.
The past.
Performance.
The past.
So anyway, so we're going back to these orange lines. The orange lines are going to be the halving date. So the first halving that happened with Bitcoin, when the mining rewards are cut in half. So every 220,000 Bitcoin blocks mined is when we have the halving. That's what I've got these orange lines indicating. And the white lines, of course, are the 65% mark between halvings,
which we find to tends to be the bottom.
Tends to be the bottom. And as you can see, it has been the bottom in all these times. So what's going to happen right now, this is what we're going to get into. This is what we're going to get into in the shorter time frame charts. You can see this is kind of messy when it gets up here because all these lines are in the daily chart. We just want to show you and the general time between these marks and the time that we get back to the previous high are almost 2 years. So we're talking about the next halving happening in, potentially between February and maybe June of 2024, but that wouldn't bring us back to the previous all-time high until about October of 2024, till we were back at, say, 70K, if these things are true. But anyway, let's get zoomed into the daily chart because that's what people want to see. So Bitcoin versus US dollar on the daily time frame. What is going on? We got to get zoomed in because these charts are all the same. But
I'm going to say, long story short, if you're not DCAing, you should be.
You should be. So what's going on? I drew this little doodle at the time of the episode last week here. I drew this little doodle for you guys. And as you can see, we hit the little swoop in the bottom and headed back up to the top of the range. And that's where we are now. So what's going to happen? We came back and hit the top of this range perfectly, 17.2. And now, at the time of filming this video, we are $17,083. So the top of the zone still here. What's going to happen?
Well, how significant that we haven't broken through 17.2?
No.
How significant is that?
How significant is that? I don't know. To me, I don't know. I really honestly can't explain why I see the patterns that I see in these charts. I put this green box in here for you guys before we dropped into this zone. Called 17.2, called 15.4. I don't know why. I don't know how it's in my brain. It just seems to work out. And it actually, when we came into this, everything in the market was looking bearish. So when we were coming into the bottom here, I drew this other line because that kind of seemed to be the mid-range, which is the 16.2 mark of this trading area. And we hit that. And everything looked bearish. So the RSI looked bearish. Even market cipher B that you used was looking bearish. There was
macro.
There was bearish signs everywhere.
Everybody's talking bear. Everybody's talking 13.
Everyone's talking
10,
13.
11.
And then, so I wanted to talk again about how much this SPX chart correlates with what is going on.
SPX 500 being a combined stock of 500 other stocks, top stocks put together in one, and basically why you can see how this drives the market, because it's basically an overview of the stock market in one stock.
And so we've been following this ascending channel. Actually, this is the first time that I marked it here, and then we ended up having a second bottom. So this was kind of a spring test before it came up to the bottom here. So what I see is an accumulation pattern, but I don't think this is going to be the fully bullish sign that we want. So I've had this ascending channel here drawn for some time since we had the bottom, and I think it was back in here somewhere that I was talking to you guys about floating up to the 41 to 4200 range of this SPX chart, and sure enough we hit the bottom of the channel here again and headed back up to the top. So crazy run last week. This was a huge day for the SPX. Can't remember if that was Thursday or Friday.
It was Wednesday, right at the announcement.
Wednesday.
It was at the Fed meeting
that we're going to talk about here in a sec. So huge day for the SPX. Almost brought us right to the top of this red line on the channel here before coming back down. So, maybe we retest the line again, but I really do think that we're going to float into this area, or maybe that was the top right there. But I do think that we could potentially see another move to complete this off, and I've got this kind of doomsday zone marked here, red zone, because I do believe that we are going to see more downward pressure on these markets come the end of this year. Now, this is just a prediction. It's not financial advice. I really don't, you know what I mean?
But reason behind it is? No reason?
No
reason? Well, I would say personally, because they're going to try and push the Dixie, right? We've seen the Dixie make a huge run, and everything's compared to the U.S. dollar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're trying, and although we have seen the Dixie, the U.S. dollar, taper off and break out of its ascending channel in the last few weeks to a month here, I mean, it looks very, very bearish, but that's exactly what they want you to think, right?
So it looks bearish for sure. Here's the,
just like you said, Bitcoin looked super bearish,
here's
and it had
dollar,
a pump.
and here's the dollar strength index here. So
U.S. dollar's
highest point that it ever was back in 1985. It reached a high of $163
compared to all other currencies globally.
About 20 years after that, it hit a high of 120, and we can kind of see the fluctuations in these markets. And this is going to be to when the stock markets are doing well, to when housing is doing well, compared to when people are dumping their money out of assets and back into the U.S. dollar, right? So they happen in these cycles, 5 to 10
And if you're
years.
asking why this happens, it's basically because we have a set amount of money and it has to go somewhere. Yeah. So basically, at some point, they were holding a lot of U.S. dollars. Everybody's holding their money in U.S. dollars, and at other points, they're holding their stocks or housing or assets or whatever, right? The money has to go somewhere. So what we saw over the last year and a half.
And so now also we've exceeded these previous highs from 2015, 2016, right? So that generally tells us that we're going to make a run to the next resistance, or else potentially, this could have very well been the top, but I have a feeling that we're actually going to see a double top here. So
I think we'll see a little bit of play up in that area anyways.
And so this will,
right?
Potentially be a double top. Will it get a bit higher than that? I don't know.
A little bit higher would actually be bearish, right?
Yeah,
because we'd see that higher top with less momentum,
which would nice to see.
Right, and the RSI would probably continue to go down as the price goes up, which we call our bearish divergence.
And this is exactly what happens in previous cycles too.
Exactly.
Right.
Which basically means everybody that got caught, basically the retail investors get caught saying, "Oh, the Dixie's going up, put your money in dollars," but then the whales dump it on you.
So if we are right, if people thought this was bottom, and this comes to an uptrend just into here, and we're going to see that double top play out, then this makes perfect sense, because we'll see a little bit more of a run here, and then as this comes back down, we'll see this dollar chart go back up, potentially make this a bearish divergence before coming back.
And the thing is it's going to take a lot of time for that to play out too, because that massive run up, that was big money.
Right.
That's big money doing that, and then retail tries to jump on the train, but you're too late, right? It takes a lot of time for that to play out, and then you get crushed.
This is the monthly chart, so we're talking about potentially another year in time, which makes sense, because if we go back to the Bitcoin monthly chart, then that takes us into that next halving cycle, which is actually April. Say we've kind of like mapped it out around April.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's
of 2024.
It's all about blocks mined, but it should be within a few months.
So this is why we're dollar cost averaging. This is why we're stacking to our Bitcoin positions, because we have a feeling that we're going to be in these low points for probably the next year, or maybe even 18 months.
It might be a nice casual sideways, maybe a little bit of a pump back up to the 20s. Great. I wouldn't be surprised if we just sit in the 20s, the 30s for a while. Yeah. But honestly, just having Bitcoin show the support that it's showing right now, we've bounced off 15.5 twice now. Yeah. Maybe come back down for a third try. Depending on what the Dixie does, because of course a lot of the Bitcoin moves recently have actually just been the Dixie moving. Bitcoin has actually been quite stable over the past few months. It's just been the fluctuation of the dollar, which Bitcoin is compared to. Right. That's why we see the fluctuations, right?
And so I don't know. Going back to the chart today, like now people are talking about this bull flag, right? So I don't know how I feel about this thing being a bull flag, or if we're going to just see the dump again. But if we do see the SPX come up again this week, so if that heads for the top of the range in that SPX, then maybe we make a test for this orange line again here outside of the green box. But again, this is similar to what happened here, and we just eventually got faked out and brought back down, right? So we talked about that too. So we want to be aware that even if we break this range, maybe we test this height here, which is about 17.8 to potentially 18.2. And then if that is the top of the SPX, then we're coming back down, in my opinion, to the 15.5.
And we'll be keeping an eye on the RSI, the strength, all that sort of stuff, seeing how the volume, seeing what's actually happening. But there is no reason for any sort of bull run to happen right now.
No. So, mid-range of the RSI, again, it's looking like we could potentially start to make that move to the upside. But again, that's, potentially 18.2 before we see more downward price action. So I'm not, we're holding off on bigger purchases right now.
A year from now?
We're just letting things kind of chill out. What's that? This?
I'm just looking at your
No.
Oh,
this is between now and January. So this is actually marked out. This is January.
Right.
This is January 2023 over here. So, this is all stuff that I expect to see play out in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So, anyway,
hoping that we hold that support. I mean, if we don't, well, we're dollar cost averaging, so it's not a big deal. But when we zoom out, it looks like we're very close to the bottom for this cycle.
Zoom out.
Exactly, right? And it looks like we're very close to the bottom for this cycle. So it's like, mathematically speaking, it's DCA is, on full bore. You better be in fifth gear by now.
Yeah. So absolutely DCA. This is the time to DCA. If it goes lower, buy more.
It's not going away. For instance, why don't you bring up that Venezuela shot while you got your screen on there, and we'll show you what happens when hyperinflation takes over, because basically every fiat currency is doomed to hyperinflation at some point, because of the way that it's designed. You have to print more to keep things going. The more you print, the less it's worth. Yeah. So in Venezuela,
it's funny because people think cash is king, right? But it's like, here's a prime example of what happens to fiat currencies. And there's been 6,000 in existence, and this happens to every single one of them. So USD is going to be no different. And it's funny if you look at how long currencies like power of currency have kept in reign, whether it was the British colony or the U.S. dollar or the Spaniards. And I think that the Spaniards were the longest at like 114 years or something like that. And then Britain was like 105 years or whatever. But the U.S. dollar is at like 101 or 102 years right now, right? So the longest running power of currency was 114 years, which I think was the Spanish acquisition, right? Okay. And now we're coming to that end. So 102 or whatever the hell it is. Don't quote me on it.
It's clearly end times.
But it's coming to end times for the U.S. dollar, and this is a prime example of what's happening.
Well, just for the fact that we saw 40% addition in the last 3 years, like that's terrible. That's red flag.
So
big time.
8 to 15% like really is not hyperinflation yet, but we will.
And what do they do after adding 40% of the money supply in the last 3 years? Janet Yellen blames you. Janet Yellen blames me and us for overspending.
Quit using your credit cards.
Are you kidding me? First of all, spending money is how you keep an economy afloat. The money has to keep flowing for it to go. That's how fiat currency works. works. If you don't spend money and you hold your money, you get it stuck in either stagflation or something else that's, why would you hold your money if it's going to be worth more, anyways. But but they're blaming us for their mistake, clearly their mistake. So a lot of people have a huge backlash on this over the internet. So there was a meeting on Wednesday. Jerome Powell talked, the Fed talked, Janet Yellen talked. Basically, they pushed the blame onto us, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, they're idiots. They're such idiots. They have no idea." Well, they know exactly what they're doing. They're not idiots. They're assholes. They're saying that their problem is our problem when really it's their job to fix and regulate
people don't
it.
understand, like, chaos and divide is fucking profitable.
Yeah,
period.
Exactly, right?
Right. So
they want you to think that, if you do one thing, they're trying to steer the markets. Remember, like, everything that happens as far as the markets goes, it's all manipulation. All of it. Every single move is manipulation. And
now more than ever.
Yeah.
Now more than ever, because that's what literally gains wealth in the economy.
Right. 50 years ago, democracy kind of had a bit of a thing and all that sort of stuff. But now we're just in a time period where the government's owned by private companies. Like, it's so far beyond what you get told that it doesn't work anymore. It's beyond broken. Beyond broken, and that's why Bitcoin was invented in 2009. Right? That's why there's a reason why it was invented.
It was an answer to the 2008 financial crisis.
But it was also an answer to the just financial system in general.
Yes,
the 2008 financial crisis being the eye-opener. Right? Like, okay, obviously we need to do something here.
Thank God for drug money.
Yeah. And drugs in general. But just seriously, like, it's very, very obvious. If you look at the past, and you can pretty much guarantee what's going to happen in the future, especially when we step on the exact same stones over and over and over again. Eventually, if you've watched MXC, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, we know which rocks are fake. At this point, we've watched the episodes so many times that we know which rocks are fake. We got to get away from that, right? Take the path that's going to get you to the other side, and that's Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's funny. All right. Well, yeah.
Anyways, though, buy Bitcoin because the reason why is because we have all these fiat currencies that are controlled by the Federal Reserve and other personal entities, right? These people have emotions. They can be bribed. It can be manipulated in ways that Bitcoin can't, because it's all code. Right? Bitcoin's code from beginning to end. We have the halvings. We have all that. Everything's just laid out, and it's you can't get in there and change it. And it's real, really. It's the only real thing.
That's what I personally. That's my thing. I think Bitcoin is the only real thing. And
as far as the state of value,
as a guy who has honestly with some serious fucking trust issues, like, Bitcoin is the only real thing that I trust, because it's the first. It's the first thing that you can acquire that has no issuer and no one at the helm susceptible to emotional imbalance is going to fucking affect your future.
Even if you buy a house. Even if
right?
you buy a house, like, the market could tank. So they say. I don't think it ever will.
But the thing is, like, the market won't tank, whatever. Your house acquires value over the years, and you can take loans against your house. Loans are tax-free.
But it doesn't. The dollar just falls. The house doesn't change in value.
That's fair.
The dollar just falls. That's
fair.
all it is.
Yeah.
Everything. And that's what inflation is. It's your dollar is losing value.
The devaluing of the dollar is what accelerates markets.
Exactly. Your bread, your groceries.
That's the misconception, the fallacy too, is that it's like, people think that this is worth more or something. You know what I mean? But it's like you're right. So inflation just causes the devaluing of the dollar.
They want you to spend less, and they're telling you it's your fault for spending too much.
It's definitely your fault.
But in reality, when they're telling you to spend less, that's when they're buying more. That's when they're picking up everything else. They're picking up houses. So just locally, where we're from in Canada here, we have a very, very overinflated real estate market. And for about the past few months, it's definitely been plateauing. But
the smart investors would buy now because
just recently, investors have been buying properties again.
And because if you buy now, well, the value of the property is 20-30% lower than it was 6 months ago or 8 months ago. Okay, so we bought 20-30% lower. Interest rates 2% higher. Interest rates going to go up over time regardless, because that's the way the fucking economy works. But I bought my house 20% less the value than it was a year ago. So I've paid less for my house in the long run than I would have had I waited for fucking
Yeah.
lower interest rates and higher price.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, that makes more sense. It's like, okay, long-term pain, or
It's time,
short-term
yeah.
pain for long-term gain.
Yeah, exactly.
right?
It's time in
And
the
that's-
market.
That's what the smart investors are realizing. So you see investment companies and hedge funds and things like that acquiring property
Yeah.
now where the interest rates are actually higher.
Yeah.
As opposed to
And these big companies have been in it for a long time. They don't lose money.
No.
Like they don't. And the funny thing is when they do, they just get bailed out by the government because they own them anyways. So it doesn't make any difference. It's all
real.
fake.
You know what's fucking funny? It's totally fake. It's so the economy.
It's not backed by anything.
We hit a fucking wall. What do we have to do? We printed 40% of the money supply in like 18 months during 2020 and 2021.
Trillions.
Right? And $6 trillion or some fucking dumb shit. Actually, it was like a stupid amount. Anyway, but if you look at the rules of fucking Monopoly, this is what I thought was funny. So I play Monopoly with my kids. You look at the rules of Monopoly, and it's like, oh, when the bank runs out of money, we can just fucking take some pieces of paper and write our little like credit notes and IOUs.
You just
and hand
make it up out of thin air.
You just fucking make it up. It doesn't matter, and that's the reason I play Monopoly with my kids because
that's the whole system's based on that. Like it's just that's how it is.
It's BS. So you buy property, they'll give you fake and fucking free money just for owning that fucking property.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's funny because bringing back to Janet
income
Yellen,
that you can make off
Janet Yellen
people
saying that we
renting
spend too much money. Well, you issued that money. It's your job. You put that money out there for us to spend. So stop blaming me for something that you created in the first place.
to relieve the economy.
Yeah, it's BS. It's absolute BS. Don't feel bad about spending money. You do what you got to do. But in the end, we're going to buy Bitcoin because that's what's going to hold its value over the long term and create that generational wealth for you, your kids, and your grandchildren and to come, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're going. And Bitcoin is just the beginning.
And it has value because we say it has value. The whole network of people who buy Bitcoin say it has value. So people are like, oh, it has no value. It's not backed by anything. You know what? No, it's backed by the 140 million people who believe more in Bitcoin than the US dollar.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
the
it's
code.
fucking backed by. It's backed by true democracy. It's backed by real fucking people who vote on the price and say, this is what one Bitcoin is worth. And guess what? One Bitcoin will always be worth one Bitcoin. But you'll never know how much the fucking dollar is going to be worth next year.
Yeah.
Right?
And well, we do know that it's making lower highs, just going down every time. They try to do this kind of stuff to keep it alive as long as they can, kick the can, so to speak, right? But it's just not going to last forever. The math is there, statistics are there. We look at the charts, we look at the data. We don't go off of people's emotional opinions because they mean nothing. We look at the charted data, and it tells you the truth. Stop watching the news, stop watching all the BS, and look at the charts. It doesn't lie.
I don't know whose quote this was, but I loved it. If lies can start a war, then can the peace be brought on by truth?
Oh yeah,
right.
Well, maybe. I mean, as long as we live in a fuck you a society where everybody just tries to take everybody. Yeah, everybody.
Anyway,
we don't get. They get to make money. Like you said the other day, they get to make money. We have to. We have to accumulate it. We have to go out and provide a service to make money.
Yeah,
right?
but or you take it by fucking giving people a service that they can pay for.
Yeah.
So money isn't earned. Okay, money is fucking made out of thin fucking air.
Yeah.
Okay, they print it out of thin air, and that it's up to me to go and fucking take it from whoever to accumulate it from myself.
Right? Fuck
so
you,
I
society.
provide a service and take your money. Okay, they made the money. They printed the money. I don't earn any money. I don't make money. I don't have a money printer. I've got to take it from you by providing a service. I've got to take it from you by doing this, by doing that, whatever. So all we can do is fucking take money.
Yeah.
Right?
And that boils down every single argument you could ever have about any problem that humans are going through, whether it's homelessness, drug addiction, this and that, cartels. It's all money is the problem. Money is the problem. Bitcoin is the answer. Bitcoin is the solution. Yeah. And not every other crypto, not Ethereum, not Litecoin, not any of these other ones, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You have your cold storage, your ledger wallet, and you're accumulating Bitcoin.
The people are like, oh, it's traceable and whatever, and you might have to pay tax on it. It's like, okay, you know what? Okay, tax still kind of keeps fucking society running.
I don't mind paying tax as long as my road gets fixed outside my house. That's fine.
So if we use something like Bitcoin to correct the errors in the monetary policy, and then they tax us on it accordingly, and that tax money actually gets used.
Yeah,
to
exactly. Tax makes complete sense as long as it doesn't go into the senator's pocket.
So who gives a fuck? If you're not fucking trafficking children and fucking drugs and all kinds of dumb shit, ruining fucking people's lives, then it doesn't fucking matter.
If you're working for the greater good,
it's a fucking moot point.
Yeah, if you're working for the greater good, taxes are okay.
We don't get to a utopian society by fucking people over.
Yeah, exactly right, and that's why we continue to get lower and lower, and things are getting worse and worse and worse because we're forced to fuck each other over to gain wealth for ourselves.
Yeah.
But in reality, we need to all gain wealth together. So exactly, right? Unity and diversity is the answer.
All right.
But anyways, the reason why that Bitcoin is so valuable and will continue to go up is because it's capped. So speaking of that,
no cap.
The
no cap.
It has come out, I believe today, maybe it was yesterday, that they are trying to cap the price of oil. So right now, if anything at all, your fiat currencies are backed by oil. In 1971, they were taken off the gold standard because we printed too much that we didn't have enough gold for, so that allowed them to print infinite amounts after that. Now they're trying to like basically do anything they can to make you believe it's not make believe, but it is make believe. But so anyways, they used oil. Oil is the new resource that they've tried to back currencies against. And in defense, to try and keep, just another kick of the can, they're trying to cap oil at $60 a barrel. It's currently trading at $80 a barrel. So what do you think that's going to do? Like right away, we have Russia, massive importer of oil, saying no, that's not going to work. But then they're also saying that, well, we're not going to take anything that comes from overseas. So like this is World War III. It's a trade war. Like no doubt. There's no reason for your kids to go out and fight as soldiers anymore. It doesn't make any difference. It's not profitable. The reason why that happened in World War I and World War II is because it was profitable.
Now it's about resources.
Exactly,
so
right. You buy shit on Amazon, they don't care.
It's about oil. It's about natural gas. It's about fucking minerals.
It's always about profits.
It's about fucking grains and corn and commodities. It's fucking...
there's other things to life than profits, right? Like what? Well, like Slurpees and stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of shit going on, you guys. So you're dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin for the greater good of your family, your generation,
and it's like
and your future.
If we go this way, so I choose to believe in Bitcoin. If we go this way, Bitcoin wins, we all win. Okay.
Yeah.
But if Bitcoin fails, we all fail. Okay. Well, what happens if Bitcoin fails, we all fail, and I put my money in there? Well, then I lost my money. Okay. Well, if that fucking happens, it doesn't matter because we're going to be running on some digital fucking currency, and they're going to be able to put a cap on whatever your spending is. They're going to be able to put a fucking an expiry date on the funds that you're given because we're going to have so much shit run by fucking AI and robots and like we're talking 10, 20 year scheme, right? And that's what we need to think about. If you want to have wealth in the future, we got to think about which direction the future is going.
No such thing as a get rich quick.
No such thing. There is no get rich quick. Right?
Staking, all that sort of stuff. Be very, very, aware of what's going on if you're doing that type of thing. It just doesn't happen when people are offering. Like I do believe. Some of the exchanges that are just barely alive right now are offering like up to 20 to 100% on
I'm
some of
taking
these.
344% on one of my coins right now.
Yeah, see, and that's
344%.
That's clearly unsustainable because where's that money coming from? It's not coming
from anywhere. They're issuing the tokens.
It's coming from the new investors. That's why that big percentage is what the APR is. What's sucking in, drawing in the new investors to pay the old investors. Right. That's a definition of a Ponzi scheme, which is fine because everything's a Ponzi scheme. But you can't push the limit too far, or you're going to get burned. Plain and simple. Take it into your own hands and put Bitcoin on a cold storage wallet and dollar cost average into that over the long period of time. You'll make more money than trying to play these pump and dumps in and out.
And it's like, honestly, it's the best and like least amount of maintenance for any kind of financial management that you can have for your future to accrue value is Bitcoin. And I don't know. I'm hanging on to it, and 2 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, hopefully we can look back at these episodes and go,
well, that's the reason. That's the reason why we made these episodes, right? Because we don't bring this up at the dinner table. And when people ask me about this stuff, I say, go check out my YouTube channel because that's where we talk.
Micro cap altcoin and fucking dunk it out Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm not gonna push this on people because I'm not gonna do what the fiat dollar has been doing to people for the last 105 years.
Yeah,
I know what I want to do with my value. I've been able to generate a very good amount of it in the 32 years I've been alive. So I want to hold on to it.
Bitcoin is literally the most efficient thing that's ever been designed. Period. And that's just, I mean, you can choose to understand it or not. It doesn't care if you understand it or not.
For instance, this way, if you go to the bank and you try and pull out, say, $10,000 cash, It's going to be very hard to do. They're going to ask you question over question over question. It's going to take time. You're going to have to put in a money order. It's not going to work right away. If I wanted to send $10,000 in Bitcoin to Julian right now, it would take 10 minutes. Nobody would ask any questions. And it would be done. And as soon as he has that Bitcoin, 10, 11 minutes later, he can now send it to Spencer in 10 minutes if he wanted to. No one's going to ask any questions because there is no issuer, right? There is nobody that's trying to say, hey, what are you doing here? It's true decentralization. It's for the people. And with Bitcoin, we have no Janet Yellens, we have no Jerome Powells because we're all equal. And that's what we want, right? If you've been watching the channel for the last year, you know, like the join the fight for equality, then use Bitcoin. Stop being, led around like sheep from pasture to pasture with all the bullshit that's going on.
The only way to implement change, because they don't care how much you fucking protest with signs in the street. No. They want that shit.
Oh yeah, hell, it benefits them.
It promotes more chaos. And
you put them on the front news when you protest.
If you take money out of their fucking bank accounts, which is buying Bitcoin is the best thing you can do to fucking make a global government fucking change is by taking money out of the monetary policy that they have. And the best way for us to do that, take our funds that we would generally contribute to an RSP or something like that and put it into Bitcoin. You don't have to pull your whole life savings. You don't have to double mortgage the fucking house to get in there.
No.
Just take some money like
you can buy $10 at a time.
If you look at the fucking money, the debt that they have in liabilities and liability insurance and shit like that in the United States is like $100 fucking trillion. Okay, so all the money that's in it's unfunded liabilities. Sorry. Like pensions and all that shit, right? It's like it's fucking debt. They don't actually have that fucking money,
which is brutal because that's people's livelihoods.
So what's going to happen in fucking 20 years when this economy starts to get to that hyperinflation point and all these fucking people that want to retire and have all this money, there is going to be no money there.
Well, think about it.
What can we do
during COVID and they did the checks or whatever, the subsidy checks. The only option they had was to print more money.
And I wouldn't fucking doubt actually if all these policies and these retirement plans, they're going to start taking their money and contributions and they're going to invest it into Bitcoin.
Okay, well that would be the smart thing to do.
I would fucking almost guarantee it. You give it 5-10 years and we're going to start to see unions and all these fucking different things start to put their pension money into Bitcoin. That's what I see. That's the way I see the future going. Okay, so it's like you can see the development of it or not believe in it or whatever, but it's going to continue to grow based on Metcalfe's law. It's just the way the fucking happens. It's the same thing with indoor electricity, right? Yeah. How many fucking apartment buildings do you think burned down before they fucking figured out how to make it completely safe? You know what I mean? Like, hey, do you want to be the first person with electricity? Your place might burn down.
Well,
let's give it a shot.
Yeah,
right. You know what I mean?
That's how they figure it out, right?
Right. They figure it out. So it's like, you know what? It's volatile. People get hurt and shit like that. But Bitcoin is the one that you can fully believe. Don't sell it. Okay. This is why we push dollar cost averaging, because you're not going to throw your whole fucking bag in there and be like, oh my god, I need to sell a bit of that at these lower prices so I can, pay the grocery bill or whatever.
No. You have your budget. You have your budget to live. You have your spending budget outside that you would normally buy a new pair of shoes or whatever the hell else you're going to buy, and you put a percentage of that you're willing to lose because it's an investment, and you put that towards Bitcoin, and that's how you build sustainable wealth over the long period of time. Put your money into something that's against the US dollar, against any. That's why they say spend money to make money, because all you do is you put your money like into housing, any sort of asset, right? And because we know that the fiat dollar is going to go down over time, so as long as you
accumulate assets that you can take debt against.
Exactly, right?
Because my debt comes tax free. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I put all of the money that I paid tax on into assets that accumulate me wealth. I take loans against my assets that are tax free. Now all the cash that I spend is tax free.
And you get a tax break after that too. You get a rebate or whatever too.
Right.
With all the
stop spending your money on dumb shit. Every time you want to buy a Coke or a fucking Starbucks fucking pumpkin double fucking
$8 coffee or whatever
you fucking go buy some Bitcoin.
I've heard about it. I've never been there.
Anyway. We've been rambling.
Yeah, we've been rambling, and there is some other stuff I want to talk about, but we'll get into it next time. So just be aware if you're an Apple user out there, because there's a lot of stuff going on. Come back next week and we'll talk about Apple. Personally, I've been telling people to get away from Apple for years, and I've finally just convinced Julian after the recent news. So if you want to look more into that, let us know in the comments, and we'll talk about that in the comments. But for now, Biggs and Bogs out. Peace.
I think my screen recording stopped. I think when I went to change, so you'll just we can just add in the image.